Hey, Tom here, FlipAnythingUSA. So, see, some might not recognize me right off. I've shaved, it's been months. Uh, I made a video a while back, can I make millions? And I don't even know, it might have been a half hour, an hour, just driving around talking about, because a lot of people ask me, how to get started, and so I'm just going to do a couple of these videos, kind of shorts, I think, to get to what I think is the most important basics you need to. And some of you already know this, but like I said, I've said before, sometimes just hearing what you already know reinforces that you do the right things. And I'm even talking to myself, because believe me, just even writing this on the board here in the last couple minutes before I started this camera, uh, you know, I can, just doing a few things, which I'm going to do as soon as I finish this, I can save about 15 to $20,000 a month. Okay, that's how much. Okay, so and it doesn't matter if you got a lot of money. It's all relative. Okay, because even when I started, I really followed some basics. Number one, it's kind of by necessity. I cut my overhead, right? I mean, and that's what I put as the number one thing. And I'm trying to talk to you as if I'd give you like the most important stuff first, because cutting your overhead is like the number one thing, because the less overhead you have, the less money you need to get by, to make it, right? And even if you have a lot of money, it's more money available to you to to utilize because look, your money is your number one tool as an investor. It's the number one thing. uh, it's your seed capital in the beginning, and once you get momentum and you start having more money, I mean, it's just a necessary thing, because it's power. You can say, I'll take it, and you can take it. You can say, I'll buy it, and you can buy it. And right now, maybe some of you need a partner, but you know what? Ideally, you get to where you don't need a partner. So just on cutting overhead, we'll just make that the number one basic. Uh, you rent, food, and now even eating out when you're young, especially, the save that money, or even, it doesn't matter how old you are, it's just how much, money you got available to you. Uh, Also, darn, I feel like I might be having a sound problem here. Anyways, drinking, you know what? Drinking, I've never had a problem drinking myself, and I do drink. You guys know I have a drink here and there now. But the number one thing I would say is, uh, you know, it's easy to run a big bar tab. I mean, you if you buy everybody drinks, or even if you drink out, if you drink often, I mean, you might, if you can, maybe you can figure out how to cut that down, either drink at home or whatever. But ideally, you don't ever want drinking to inhibit you making money, because it happens all the time. It gets in the way. It gets in the way. Smoking pot gets in the way. Gets in the way of making money. It did for me anyway. So I just shied away from the stuff that gets in the way of making money. So the other thing is, besides cutting overhead, is what I like to call is time burglars. Which also, can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me, please. throw me a note back so I know I'm being heard. We were having some audio problems before. But it's time burglars. Time burglars are like the worst. And when I talk about a time burglar, that can be people that waste your time. I have people that work for me in different companies, and I'll tell them, if you learn how to get rid of people that waste your time, because they're stopping you from making me money, they're stopping you from making money. That can also be things like TV. I'm somebody, I can't stand watching sports. I love sports, I played sports, but it kills me to watch millionaires play football or baseball. It just kills me to watch millionaires while I'm sitting on my butt having a beer, on the couch, whatever. Well, millionaires are making money. I mean, they're making millions right in front of me. It kills me. I can't do it. Again, if you guys let me know if you can hear me, because I got a feeling maybe the audio is not coming through. But what we're talking about here is get started making money. The number one things you got to consider, and believe me, I started with zero, so I know firsthand. And and like I said, by just cutting your overhead, the less money you need to survive, the more time you'll have because you won't have to work as much, or maybe at a job, but you'll have more time to look for opportunities to make the big money. Because that's probably the number one thing that helped me was I was self-employed, and even though I wasn't really killing it, making money when I was self-employed, where I was killing it was as I had the ability to just drop everything and go look at a property immediately. And that was the real power. The power to be able to just go look at something and say, I'll take it, okay? And then, write a small check to tie it up with a deposit, and then you guys know the rest. So, hey, somebody tell me if this is coming through or not, please. Is there anything? Also, so look, time burglars, you know what, that can be bad relationships, negative people, not just the TV, but I mean, believe me, I remember having guys work for me, and I know it too firsthand, but I would see a guy come in and his head would be in his, shoulders down. He's not doing a good job. He's moving slow. And I already know he had a fight with his girlfriend, and now he's depressed all day, and now he ain't worth a shit all day. That stuff happens. And, at some point in time, some people stay in a miserable relationship forever, and it costs you. It costs you. And believe me, as you get older, you know what? It's harder getting out of bed. It's, and I mean, it's just tougher. It's tougher to work hard as you get older. You just get tired quicker. So these are things you got to do. You can figure it out for yourself. But time burglars, cutting overhead. I'm just going to leave you with that mostly today. Just think about the things that take your time, that make nothing for you. Because those are, I mean, that's as bad as wasting money, or just, pouring it, or, just throwing it out the door. Because time is money, right? We all know that. Time is money. And the more money you make, you'll realize that your time really is valuable. And, it's like me. I come in here and I do these videos with you guys and gals and to talk to you. I don't even write a script. I write a little bit on the board, but time's important to me. Time is money. And, but I kind of know right off the top of my head pretty much what the most important things are. So I don't mind, and I don't mind sharing. So again, is everybody hearing this? Can somebody just throw me a note, give me a thumbs up or something here, or just type in something, because I'm not sure this is getting through. When I talk about, one of the first jobs when I started cabinet shop, I took the time to write a flyer up. I mean, this is all in one day. Wrote a flyer, mailed it out before the mail got picked up that night. It was a Friday night. And I woke up to a phone call. Okay, you're here, LOL. Okay, hey, Dakota. You hear me okay, Dakota? Everything's good? Anyways, I made a flyer. I took the time to make that flyer at 5 o'clock at night. I was broke. I needed work. But I sent that flyer out just before the mail got picked up. And I woke up to a phone call at 10 in the morning. Okay, cool, man. Glad to hear it. Glad to see you here back listening. And at 10 o'clock, I got a call from, what was his name? Jeff Davis. He's a contractor. And he says, I'd never even talked to him before, but he said, hey, I need some cabinets built. I said, man, I'm on it. I drove straight out to him, and you know what? He needed a little job done. I figured it out and told him how much it cost. Said I could use a deposit. He wrote me a check for a deposit, and that was the beginning of a long and fruitful relationship of me being a subcontractor to a contractor building cabinets. But it also put money in my bank that day that I did not have, because I was actually broke. In fact, I don't even know if I had enough money to cover the printing costs and the stuff that I had, but I knew I was gonna, I'd float a check. Back then I did. I didn't bounce anything, but I did float checks here and there. So anyways, also, guys, listen, I have an app out there, that FlipAnything app. It's free on Android. It's right now, you can get it for 99 cents on, on Apple for your iPhones. Go get that. It's just a no-brainer. You need to get familiar. Also, get yourself an amortization schedule. Play with amortization schedule. You got to understand numbers. That's very important. But again, so back to the basics here. Cut your overhead best you can. I lived in a house that I spent $125 a month, I don't know, 35, 40 years ago. And I mean, that was low then, okay? And I kept my overhead to a minimum. I ate out every morning, but you know what? For me, it made sense. But you'll figure it out for yourself. But uh, keeping your overhead low and just being really efficient with your time, it's the most important thing you can do. When you get older and you got money and you got plenty of cash flow coming in, and you can kind of do whatever you want, then you can be lazy by choice. And I do that. I just got back from Napa, and I went to San Francisco, and I goofed around and I drank good wine, but I still can't keep my mind off real estate because everything I see I'm interested in. But that's just me. But number one, right now, I just want to give you some basics on prepping yourself. And like I said, the main thing is cut that overhead. I mean, anybody here, you want to list some time burglars? What gets in your way? Share it. What gets in your way? Procrastination. Thinking about doing something. Oh, that's the worst. Thinking about getting ready to do, just thinking about doing, just do it, just get it done. What I do when I think about things I need to get done, I think about what's most important, and then I take that what's the most important list. Oh, YouTube and Instagram, that's where your time's going? Yeah, well, I mean, I get it. I have a Yahoo account, and I resist even clicking on the headlines. There's so much bullshit anyways, but once in a while, I'll get baited in, I'll click and I'll read through it some. But, for the most part, you can get your news. You can just go grab it when you want. And if your news is what you want, I don't know if you love watching sports, but you know what? I know that's a time burglar, big time for a lot of people. The other thing is, really just hanging out with negative people sometimes, people that tell you things can't be done. I mean, it's terrible. I had a grandfather who was like that, and believe me, I really didn't like to talk to him too much because that never seemed like a good idea to him. So what else? I guess that's it. Mainly I want to share that with you. Just really watch out for, cut your overhead. Keep your overhead as low as you possibly can. The less you need to get by, it just means the more money you're going to have left over and the more time you're going to have, because people just live for their bills. There's nothing worse. I tell people all the time, I like to feel good, not look good. When you guys saw, I just bought about $100,000 car here not too long ago, and I shared that experience with you. And I probably mostly bought that because that car, it made my son smile ear to ear. But I really probably bought it for that reason more than anything. But I do enjoy it. I am having fun driving around. But again, I could have bought that car 30 years ago. I didn't even have it 30 years ago. But I mean, I could have overspent. I could have bought, something really, really nice, but it might have taken half of my total net worth. I don't want to do that. I don't think you should be driving your half your net worth around. You know what I mean? That's crazy. So now, even though, 100,000, it's a very, very minor piece of my wealth. So I can do it. A lot of people can. But I guarantee you that the people that you'll find out that are the most successful are people that really pay attention to keeping their overhead low, and to, they value their time. It's precious. Even if you're not making much money right now, and maybe your time's not worth a lot of money to your boss or whomever you work for, but I'm telling you, that time that you have that's your own, if you utilize it to get educated on what property is worth, so that you know a good deal when you see it, I mean, that can be worth $100,000 in one instance. I've shown you guys where I've made, I just made a video, made $120,000 on one little office building. That's just one of many deals. I've made more than $300,000 by taking time and doing stuff that a lot of people wouldn't do. Just going the extra mile, making the extra phone call, endlessly going and looking at leads that sometimes go nowhere. But that's the power. Is when you have time, you can do stuff like that. You can take time to pull over, to look at that sign. You see a sign laying down flat, you lift it up. You can take time to go knock on the door and say, hey, you want to sell your place? these are the things that all boil back down to having time, being educated with what you're looking at, knowing what value is. Because if you know what value is and you have time, you can jump on something quickly. You can be the first one at the door when somebody has something for sale. And if you know values in advance of that, you can be the first one to say, I'll take it. Let's see. You leverage your money more than buying and selling. All right, I got to look at that again. You leverage your money more than buying and reselling? I'm trying to understand that, Dakota. You leverage your money. I always leverage my money when I'm buying, I guess. As long as if I'm borrowing, I'm leveraging to a degree. I just had this conversation with a relative. Okay, I have a relative that paid a few $100,000, maybe $200,000 or $300,000 for, and this is somebody that doesn't leverage. Okay, but I'm going to give you an example. Talk about I leverage all the time. Like I say, if I buy something, I'll just tell you about what I just told a relative yesterday. Okay, what their situation is, they paid $250,000 for a house about 20 years ago. Well, now that house is worth about $1.5 million. All of a sudden, people are banging on the door. They want to buy it. They want to buy it. They want to buy it. I told them, I said, look, get educated on your area. You need to find out why there's a sudden surge of people knocking on your door, wanting your property, and wanting to give you $1.5 million. Because the initial reaction is, wow, that's awesome. I only paid $250,000, and you'll sell it, right? But look, do your due diligence. Take time, because they might be banging on your door because your property's worth $3 million. You don't know. And that's why I say it all the time. Inherited wealth gets squandered all the time because people just see the dollar signs, the immediate, easy, free money. But they may not be looking deep enough, because even though it's free and easy money to them, it could be twice as much free and easy money. And it's actually something that scares me to death about my own kids, is that when they inherit my wealth, I don't want them to waste it. I don't want to squander it. And I just did a little video on that the other day. And in fact, I texted my kids, all of them, all at one time. I said, man, don't you ever sell my commercial properties. Don't ever sell them. Keep them. Don't ever sell them. Because they bring money. They bring income. And I was talking to a guy, and I'm kind of repeating some of the video from the other day, but I was talking to a guy, and he told me that he's getting ready to sell his liquor store that was a third or fourth generation, been around since the early 1900s. And the first thing he said, I said, well, are you guys going to sell the real estate? Because I want to buy it, right? He says, no. He goes, man, my grandpa screwed up. He could have bought this place in 1941. And I thought, man, I do not want that to be my legacy. For my kids, my grandkids to say, oh, if Grandpa Tom wouldn't have screwed up, we could have owned this or something. That I don't want to be my legacy. So anyhow, back to what I was telling relatively. I told them, do your due diligence, find out, make sure you know what it's worth. Well, Kurt, as long as people are working, that's true. But, everybody needs a place to live. That's obvious. But, real estate can be very prime, obviously. And like I was telling my brother-in-law, relative, if he gets $1.5 million, okay, and he's got this money, like I was telling him, I said, you're probably going to have a hard time buying another home of the same value, because he's actually in a spot in California where they kind of lock in if you paid $250 for it 20 years ago, you're still paying a very low, you're paying tax on just about $250 still today. Where in other states, they escalate it up all the time to keep it pretty much at market. So he's got to think about that. Well, he doesn't want to buy as big a place or as expensive a place. But the difference is that money can be utilized. What I was telling him, I said, you can, if you have $1 million, go buy yourself a home, and then you got $1 million left over. Take that $1 million and go buy something. If you don't want to pay cash, if you want to pay cash, pay cash. And now you can maybe get 10% a year on your $1 million. That's worst case. I wouldn't even do that. I'd try to get more than that. But for him, if he could get 10% on $1 million, that's $100,000 a year. And I said, he said, well, what about borrowing if I didn't have $1 million? I said, well, you can put $500,000 down and buy something for $1 million. Now back to leveraging, and you'll maybe, let's just say it puts out, has a 10%, return. So he's going to get 10% on his 500,000, and then on the other 500,000 he borrows at say 5%. He's going to make 5% on the borrowed money. So he's going to make 5% on the borrowed money, and he's going to make 10% on the cash that's his own. And so, of course, that brings him up to an average of 15% now on the overall, on the return that he's getting actually on his money, the way he's utilizing it. So, anyways, I'm kind of getting a little bit off track here, but not so much, because it's all relative to real estate and investing. It's all stuff we should talk about. And somebody wrote something here. Let's see. Real estate follows the law of supply and demand. Yeah. Well, right now the economy's prospering, and right now I can see it in my other businesses too. My real estate's going through the roof. It's just like I just see it. I mean, I know that I'm making millions, okay, millions more a year, every year, just sitting still. It's not cash, it's equity. The value of my property keeps going up, and I don't even like it because I got to pay more taxes on it, and now I got to adjust rents up as well. But that's how it is. But and things can go down, and it's like I was telling my relative the other day. Look, find out why it's jumping up, because maybe an opportunity to go ahead and cash out, and that's what I'm doing with some of my houses right now. In fact, I just listed. I just listed I forget what I called it, but the property I paid $100,000 for, and now I got it putting it for sale for $585. I just gave that to a listing agent. I'm going to take off on vacation here in about a week, and I don't want to field the calls, to be honest, anymore. I gave it a couple of weeks. I got some interest in it, but you know what? I just want to hand it off to an agent, let them screw with it. They'll put it on the MLS. It'll get sold quicker. So that's what I'm doing right now. But even then, when I get that money, I'll probably do a 1031 and transfer it into something else, or worst case, I'll pay the taxes on that. Yeah, I don't know, man. Things change. I quit trying to. I live in the now. That's what I do. As somebody's saying, selling, what is it, 2020? Yeah, I can tell you, things can change in an instant, and like the big bank bailouts we had in 2008, 2009, everything just turned over. Just all of a sudden, nobody could borrow any money. The banks were just stuck, and that can happen. That can just happen. And there's things you can't control. So, the best thing to do is buy it right, buy it under market. You guys are going to see a video I made. I'm going to probably put it out tomorrow, okay? I'll try to put it out tomorrow. It's called Leapfrogging. And anyhow, it's worth it. Watch it, because leapfrogging is something you can do in good times and bad times for different reasons. And I've demonstrated it already with some of the deals I've done, but I kind of give a good explanation of what I'm talking about in the video I just made. So, like I say, I have been through many ups and downturns, and in all honesty, I mean, I believe that we're reaping great rewards right now because of the president that we got. We got a businessman in there. We got a guy that understands, what keeps business going and what makes things move and make things tick. And because I was preparing for the worst, I was selling all my land because I thought if we'd have gotten Hillary in, I think our country would just be a mess. She's anti-business. She's never, anyways, she's never met a tax she didn't love. And so I'm just so thankful we don't have Hillary. But that's what I'm saying. You can say buy in 2020, but we could have a change of presidency that could just ruin everything. So you just don't know. But safest thing you can do is buy things right, and then if you see things going down the tubes, you can get out, and because you bought it right and there's a good margin, you can escape and still make a little money, or worst case, you can escape and not lose any money. But that's why, like I say, always make your money on the purchase. The business of speculating and land holding, when you hold land, it just sits there and doesn't make money other than it's appreciating, and not everybody can afford to do that. You want to be there. You want to get to that stage. I've done really, really well. I've made millions of dollars on land, raw land, and but it's not something that's everybody can do because it just sits there and it eats you in taxes and plus whatever money you do have in it, it's not doing anything for you. But at some point, if you can do it, then you sell it, you make a pile of money, and you go buy income producing assets like stores and buildings and offices and the kind of stuff that I mostly own today. So, anyways, so I'll leave you that. Please take a look, think about how you can cut your overhead. Think about time burglars. Anybody that wastes your time or anything that wastes your time, could be watching TV, sports, whatever. If you really treat your time as an asset, yeah. So, like you say, I mean, like Kurt just said he bought wrong 10 years ago, and he had to wait 10 years to recoup his investment. That's why I say, it's even like leases. Leases. When I lease a property, somebody else had coined the term, but I thought, that's a really good way to put it. They were talking about leases are like stock, right? Like when things are good, times are really, really good. That's really when you want to get your leases signed because everybody's optimistic and they say, oh yeah, I don't want to move, and they're willing to pay that. And then all of a sudden things go down and now they're going, I can't afford this. And then you as a landlord, and I've lowered people's rents before, I've done it many times to help them get by. But you have that power. But what's also terrible is if you lease something really cheap for too long of a term, like a stock, now you've kind of you're at a fixed rate of what you're charging, and the economy's booming, and everything around you is renting for more, but you can't do anything about it because you tied yourself into too long of a lease at too cheap a rate. In fact, there's a thing called, man, I wanted to buy this deal. I found I can't remember. I'll just call it some liquor barn or something like that. I'm not saying it's liquor barn, but it was something like that. Big 20,000 square foot store, and they moved out, and but they were trying to sell their equipment. But I realized, I said, well, what's the deal on your lease? So I looked at the lease. They were leasing this beautiful property that at the time was probably worth about 80 cents a foot. Today it's probably worth $3 a foot per month rent, okay? But they were getting it for like a nickel a foot. And I was trying to figure out how I could take over their lease. I was going to say, let me take over your lease, because they were going to be happy to let them out of the lease. There's no question. But I was trying to think, what if I give you 10 grand and I assume your lease? Because that's what I wanted to do. I thought I'd go in there and assume the lease, and I would, I'd go rent it out for 50 cents a foot. And while the market's 80, and I can rent it to somebody and make 45 cents a foot times 20,000 square feet, $9,000 a month. So these are the things you have time to think about when you have time to think, and if you guys haven't seen, you'll see I show how I made over $1 million, $1.7 million, I think, on just by renting a property. I rented a property and then I re-rented it at a much higher rate, and I had that property for 7 years. These are the things you can do. So if you can't look at that one, I think it's called re-renting or something like that. If you type that in, you'll find it. But hey, I'm gonna go. I just wanted to touch base, share with you all a little bit. I'm gonna try to do more of these. Can I make millions? And kind of get to the subject matter that's most important, I think. And believe me, it's always the basics that are the most important. It's the basics. So here's two of the main basics for me. That's my thoughts. So I'm gonna say goodbye. Thanks for watching. Any questions you got, just throw them in the comment line. I'll try to address them. And thanks for watching. Be sure to get, email me for sure, Tom@FlipAnythingUSA.com. And when I have my book ready here, you can get it for 99 cents. I'll show you how to get it for cheap. Yeah, thanks, Bill. I appreciate you watching. And Dakota and everybody else. But also, if you can get the app, get the app. But please share, subscribe, and and share. Share your stuff. Let's talk things out. I love it when people share, because I've done so many deals and been through so many circumstances. I forget them. I forget many of the things I've done. There's no saying. People say I've forgotten more than you know, and I can honestly say that's true for me with a lot of people. Okay, let's see. Kurt's got a question. Let me check it out. My mother-in-law is going to lose her home. She is becoming a motivated seller. It's a great location if you or a viewer are interested. Okay, Kurt, listen, watch my video tomorrow. Maybe I'll release it today. I'll try to release it today. It's called leapfrogging, okay? That one is one that is very important. Not necessarily. The economy's not bad right now. I don't know why she's losing her home, but I'm very sorry to hear that. It sounds like she probably paid too much for it because right now the economy's pretty darn good. And, you know, unless she's just in a depressed area that I don't know about. But anyways, again, please share, subscribe, and always ask questions. And yeah, Kurt, I'll you know, comment on that video tomorrow. I actually have all the deals I can handle right now. Oh, just bad with money. Yeah, well, that's hard to fix. That is hard to fix. Yeah, all right, man. Well, thank you, Kurt. Anyway, everybody, thanks for watching. And I'm going to try to step up the videos here a little bit more. And like I said, they're always unrehearsed. But, you know, we usually get some good content, especially when we got questions, you bring up circumstances. You know, like I said, it's just I start recalling things that I've already done. There's usually a lesson in there somewhere. So have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.